Hello and welcome to Cryptid by State, Hawaii. Today we return to our Cryptid by State series with a location that over a few months ago jumped from near the bottom of the list up to a strong lead at first. I'm not sure if this was done out of pure interest or if it was actually all just a test of my cryptid finding skills. Honestly, this state did give me a lot of trouble, and as a result I don't have a large list of cryptids to report. When the dust cleared, I did manage to dig up around 8 different beings to talk about. So, join me once again on our cryptid family road trip as we rack up some serious frequent flyer miles as we travel from our previous location of Idaho and venture to Hawaii. The Polynesian people arrived on the island in 2 waves, with the first group coming from the Marquesas Islands and the second from Tahiti. The exact date is unknown, but it is said to be in a broad range falling between 124 and 1120 AD. After establishing settlements, a ruling class emerged with nobles known as Ali'i, with the Ali'i Nui being considered king. Many belong to this through history, including the legendary ruler Liloa and Umi Aliloa, who successfully unified the islands. The first known visitation from Europeans occurred on January 18, 1778, when Captain James Cook landed on Kauai during his voyage to discover unknown areas for Great Britain. He called the lands Sandwich Islands in honor of the 4th Earl of Sandwich. Captain Cook would return to the islands 2 more times in 1779, once in January and another in February. It was during this stay that 2 of James Cook's longboats were stolen. Angered by this slight, he attempted to kidnap the king named Kalaniʻopuʻu. Before he was able to do this, the high priest named Kaniina struck Cook with the flat part of his sword. He then physically picked Cook up and slammed him to the ground. While there, James was killed with a knife stab from the attendant known as Nu'a. This skirmish didn't seem to sour relations with Britain, though. Later, a warrior chief known as Kamehameha established the Kingdom of Hawaii in 1795 after a 15-year battle attempting to unify the islands. This one man would begin the era where the society would base their rule on England by setting up a monarchy. From this point until 1874, the House of Kamehameha would be in control of what was known as the Kingdom of Hawaii. During this time, American missionaries and merchants would start to make their way to the island. As such, they brought with them sugar cane and planted it on the lands leased by Kamehameha III. This endeavor massively changed the economy, and due to this also led to the downfall of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Jumping way ahead, with control of the economy, the U.S. overthrew the Queen of Hawaii and made it a territory on July 7, 1898. Then, on August 21, 1959, Dwight D. Eisenhower officially announced that Hawaii was the 50th state to join the Union. The flag of Hawaii was quite shocking to me, since I never expected it to look like this, nor for it to actually carry the Union Jack as part of its design. This flag has its roots based in the one used by the East India Company, although it only had red and white stripes. While the history is a little hazy, many believe this design was created by Scottish Captain Alexander Adams, who later served for the Navy for the Kingdom of Hawaii in 1816. There are various stories about why the flag includes a British element. Some claim that the king Kamehameha wanted a flag that would show their friendship with the British and their friendliness towards the U.S. Others omit the last part and simply say it was a sign of their friendship with England. The flag consists of 8 stripes, with each one representing the 8 major islands. When it comes to the color of the stripes, there isn't any official meaning, but some state the red represents the people's gods, the white stands for truth, and the blue is for the oceans. Okay, so let's discover what cryptids this location has. Starting off, let's look at a creature that is fairly familiar to a lot of states we've already talked about. Apparently, pteranodons have been seen on a few of the islands, but there have been a lot on Oahu. In 1970, a 12-year-old boy named Les Kuoki stepped out of his home located in the Monowili Valley and saw something flying overhead in the sky that would haunt him for years. As he looked up, he saw a massive bird-like creature flying at an estimated height of 100 feet, traveling from the Ka'ula'u and heading towards the Olumana. Originally, he thought that it must be a remote-controlled glider, but he quickly realized this wasn't the case. Its wingspan was around 30 feet, it had light brown canvas-like skin that didn't have any feathers, and it had a very prominent cone coming from the back of its head. As he watched, it began slowly flapping its wings in 2-second intervals, and did so until it vanished from sight. While unreliable, he claims that 20 years later he was talking to his brother about the encounter, and he claimed to know someone who had seen one. Then, in October of 1999, 2 soldiers on the northeast side of Oahu saw a similar creature. Not a lot of details are given, but it was seen flying extremely high up, had a wingspan of around 20 feet, and had a tail that was 3 feet long, a long neck with a pointed head, and they said it looked very much like a pterodactyl. What amazed them was how graceful it flew, and that it was seen hovering and diving through the clouds. In 2008, a woman and her nephew from the Big Island saw the same creature. The being flew about 80 feet above their heads, and it was said to have a long, sharp beak, featherless, bat-like wings, a long tail that ended in a diamond shape. It had 2 long legs, grayish-brown skin, and it was gliding more than it was flapping its wings. I will mention that some have even claimed that they saw a similar creature, but with the glowing aspects of a ropin. We now move from the air to the water, where there have been many reports of enormous octopus seen in the water. The first known sighting was reported in 1932 from Maui, but it doesn't have a lot of detail. Henry Silva and other fishermen said they saw an octopus with 20-foot-long limbs crawling along the rocks along the shore. In 1928, a sailor named Robert Todd Aiken, stationed in Oahu at Pearl Harbor, claimed to have seen a specimen that had a tentacle span of 40 feet. Robert claimed to have seen the creature at least 6 times in his career, and apparently in 1935 a camera crew accompanied him to a spot where he had seen the creature and actually managed to capture a photo of it. Questions do remain since the creature was dead, if they found it that way or if they killed it and brought it to the location. Then in 1950, near Makaha in Oahu, Madison Rigdon reported seeing an octopus that had the body the size of a car fighting for its life against a group of sharks. The body of the creature was said to be 30 feet in diameter, its skin was a grayish-brown color, and it was using its tentacles to fight the sharks, which had suckers on them the size of dinner plates. Apparently, the octopus proved too much for its attackers, and it managed to shoot off quickly, leaving black ink in the water. Then in the same year, a fisherman named Val Oko would encounter a similar type of creature. While he was diving for turtles at a reef, he witnessed an octopus that had tentacles as long as 75 feet. Nothing was said to have happened, but later when he discussed the encounter with family members, they stated that the octopus was known to visit a cave in the area 1 month for a year. We step into a little bit of iffy territory here, since a part of this falls into legend, but from what I could gather, it actually is considered real. These beings are known as Mo'o, and are said to be primarily found on Molokai. They are a race of beings that are capable of transforming their shape, but are known to appear like a massive 20 to 30 foot long reptile or water dragon. According to lore, they typically have transformed into beautiful women, small geckos, and even large dragons. In their natural reptile form, their body is covered in jet black scales that glisten and are capable of producing a dangerous venom. They are believed to live in caves, pools, and deep ponds, but will emerge if a fire is lit near their home. These creatures are seen as both good and bad. Generally, they are protectors of fresh water and can be helpful to those who are nice to them. However, they can also be quite the opposite for no apparent reason. In those stories, they take joy in pushing people to their deaths off of a mountain path, drowning them in the water, eating a human whole, or using their venom to kill people. It is said that you can tell if a mo'o is in a pond if you see foam floating on the surface, or if the fish you catch has a bitter taste. Legend states that many fishermen will attempt to float a flower in the pond to judge the creature's mood. If the flower vanishes quickly, then it means they want to be left alone. If it stays, then everything is okay. The mo'o are said to be able to control storms and the water, and do so for both good and bad purposes. A real oddity to the tale, if the previous wasn't enough, is that apparently when one of these beings dies, their bodies are said to merge with the ground, causing different types of landforms. One such body is said to be visible on Kamalo Ridge, and if I did my job right in showing you the picture, then I can certainly see a reptile shape. While many assume this story has to be purely myth, it is worth noting that there have been a few sightings. In 1838, one such creature appeared before a group of 1,000 people and said its name was Mokuhinia, which is actually a name for a local pond as well. Then, in Wailua, a woman named Maggie Alu affirms that her mother once took her to a pond near Haleakala, where she saw a massive moa swimming around. I want to go over a few random ones and others that are simply found in myth. While not cryptids, I would like to mention that there are interesting legends about ghosts of warriors that are seen in a group known as night marchers. Unlike most ghosts, these ones seem to have no qualms with killing people for anything they deem disrespectful. If someone does something to impede their march, they maneuver around the obstacle, then hunt down the person who caused it to be there in the first place. If someone gets too close, they'll kill them. If a person looks at them, they'll kill them. Even if you do everything you can that is known to be respectful, they may kill you anyway. You get the picture. These certainly are not the spirits that you want to come across, although they do give ample warning of their approach, with lit torches and the loud beating of drums. Many people mention the Menehone, and they are likened to that of brownies or house elves. They are said to be a race of people that lived on the island before anyone else lived there. They reside in the dense forests and caves, but can easily hide since they are known to be extremely small. Most accounts say they are around 2 feet tall, but they also are said to be tiny enough to fit in the palm of a normal person's hand. What they lack in stature, they make up for with their expert craftsmanship and immense strength. It is said that they are nocturnal and only work on things at night. With this, they are capable of building canoes, roads, houses, temples, and even fishing ponds. Many of those actually are completed in one night. According to the lore, if they don't complete a project in a single night, then they'll abandon it. They will also abandon the job if someone tries to watch them work. Much like brownies, they are said to be invisible to most everyone except children and those connected to their culture. Weirdly, it is written that in the 1820 census, 65 people actually claimed to be Menehone. It is worth noting that another group of people were said to originally live on the island, and they were known as Mu. Stories vary between them being normal people, to a highly questionable version describing them as vampire-like creatures that live in caves. Honestly, the real oddity here is that they are said to have originated from Atlantis. The final creature of legend is a being known as Haupu, which was a giant, but I'll save that story for my upcoming giant video. I did want to add that there were legends and stories about people seeing a massive shark swimming in the water that was larger than any of their boats. For years, these reports went the way of many cryptid sightings, with very few believing it. Then, in 2019, the famous 20-foot-long great white shark known as Deep Blue was spotted in the waters around Oahu. Today's video is a little bit of an oddity, in that we really don't have an honorable mentions section, especially with the limited amount of cryptids there are here. Normally, at this point, I would briefly mention that Sasquatch was found here. However, this appears to be the first, and dare I say only, state that doesn't have Bigfoot stories. While it is sad that we are officially breaking our streak, it also is a very good thing. The realm of cryptids is open to a lot of skepticism, due to lack of evidence and various other reasons. Over the past 31 states that we have talked about, all of them have fairly fantastic and incredible creatures roaming about. Most all of them have unsubstantiated claims behind their existence, but they are rarely out of the realm of possibility. Now, with our investigation on Hawaii, things are a little bit different. When we talk about a state that is known to have 0 native land animals outside the hoary bat, then it would actually raise questions about where a Bigfoot, Dogman, or any other cryptid in our menagerie would have come from. Some claim that maybe one of them could have swam over. Figuring the closest landmass, which is Alaska, is over 2,000 miles away, this seems extremely unlikely. The longest a human has ever swam was a little over 155 miles. If Sasquatch did decide to take to the water, it would ultimately fall short of its goals for the same reason people do: lack of water, food, or sleep. This information isn't bad news though, since there are very few cryptid sightings, which is a result that should be expected. It actually lends credibility to the idea that cryptids are real. It also helps cryptozoology when all the creatures we talked about are of a type that actually makes sense to be found living on a volcanic island. Of course, if I found sightings of Bigfoot, Dogman, or any of the others, then I would happily share them with you. Although, I admit that I would really be curious as to how they arrived there without human intervention. I guess we could always leave it open to the discussion of cryptids actually being extraterrestrials. Hawaii does have quite a few UFO sightings, so who knows? As I end this, I hope you enjoyed the video and that I made Hawaii proud. While our list wasn't really extensive, I was happy that this video allowed me the opportunity to discuss how a lack of Bigfoot here actually helps the cryptid world. As usual, remember to keep voting for which state you would like to see next in this series. We currently have a tie between Alabama and Montana, with a few other states trailing behind by a single vote. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Also, it would be greatly appreciated if you share my videos with someone you know who may enjoy this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later!